Mace feels so good. So earlier the week, we asked the question on the DLQ. A new report, a study, came out and said adults are more likely, 4 times more likely to be estranged from their father than they would be their mother. 4 times as likely. And of course, as the calls flooded in, I was struck with a realization. For a very long time, I believe, like a lot of the callers were saying, a lot of the things you've heard in the zeitgeist, I believe that if a man were a provider, if he took care of his kids, and by taking care of his kids, I meant, and I'll put the onus on me, that financially, if I made sure they had what they needed and they wanted, then that made me a good parent. And I switched the paradigm. If a woman were just giving a child what it needed financially, society would judge her harshly. It would say that she was not a very good mother if all she did was provide for her family financially. But conversely, we are judged as men as great fathers if we provide for them financially. I hear a lot of this in the zeitgeist, and as I said, I will keep the onus on me. I am so sorry for the way that I felt. I'm so sorry for the things that I've said in line with that thinking, because I now know, many years later, that there is so much more to taking care of a child than just making sure it eats or making sure it has clothes or making sure it has toys. There's so much more to being what a child needs. When I hear and I hear myself in these and I hear myself in these comments, and I think what a dumb dude I was, because at one point I really literally believed that all you had to do when I grew up, a man had to do 3 things. It was a model that I patterned myself after. I'm not telling you that I'm ashamed of it, just a point of fact. When I grew up, a man had to make sure his family was okay, taken care of. He had to beat the son home, and he had to make sure no mess came to his house. That was the predicate. And I think a lot of men grew up under that predicate. And what we've learned is that we raise a lot of children that we can be disconnected with. Because after you stop providing for them financially, or they don't need you financially, what are you? It says a lot about our idea of what it means to parent a child from a man's perspective and what it means to parent a child from a female's perspective. I've had any number of times where I would say, man, I would say, hey, man, as long as you take care of what a naive, narrow thing. And I want to apologize for that mindset. I heard it in the comments, and I heard how vacant and empty it was. Taking care of a child means more than making sure, and I said this before, making sure that it eats, making sure that they have school, school is paid for, making sure that they have books, or making sure they have clothes or toys. It is being there to hear them, to guide them, to nurture them, to let you know you're there. And I think it's societally, it says a lot about who we are and what we value when we place one norm on mothers and one norm on fathers. If a mother, all she was a provider, she would be looked at a decidedly different way than if a man who says he's a provider. I take care of my kids, and I would say that all the time. I remember one Christmas, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, they made a video, and it was a video of my children through the course of their life, at baseball games, at dance recitals, and in all of those instances, I was decidedly absent. So they got me this video to kind of catch me up. And I remember tears were in my eyes, and I thought at the very moment they were thinking I was sad because I wasn't there. I was sad because if I had been there, that hadn't happened, that those things might not have happened. That was my mindset. I now know what I didn't then, and I would caution all men to take a listen to this. We know now that I know a lot of men who are great fathers and great providers. They're a decidedly different thing. The next time you say to somebody, I take care of my children, make sure that that is an edict that you understand. I know that I didn't. I know that I believed that there was a certain mindset. I was a great provider. I'm trying to be a better father. But now when people are having children, and I hear that same mantra I used to use as a very young man, the 58-year-old version of me talks a lot differently, thinks a lot differently than the 36 or 32 or 28-year-old version of me. There is more to taking care of a child than just making sure it eats. You have to give it something for its soul. We can all be fathers, but I'm enjoying becoming a dad. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show. specific fact, and you can Google it. Information is all around us. Now, how we access, whether we choose to access that information, what we do with that information, debatable. But the fact that it exists and exists in a very convenient, at our fingertips kind of way, almost makes it impossible to not know something you really want to know. If you really want to know something, generally the information is all around us. It's a finger click away. Words to a song, recipes, specific facts. We're inundated with information all around us. And that is why I place a lot of the onus of what is happening in Long Island and John Santos on the people around him. His constituents, all they had to do, if they really wanted to know if it was true, is hit Google. That's all they had to do. It's way better than Ask Jeeves. That went out a long time ago. You can ask Google and it will tell you almost anything. There's no excuse for someone to hire a police officer who's been fired before, because all you have to do is Google. Like when you go into a job, interview, you best believe they are accessing the information you give them. They're Googling you. I don't know how many times somebody's walked up to me on a plane, didn't know who I was. Is this you? You can take a picture and ask Google who this is, and the information is all around. That is why the onus is on the people who didn't want to know. They didn't want to know that Santos, almost virtually every fact of his life is a lie. All of them. Where he went to school, his achievements, the sports teams, where his mother died, how she died, his businesses. Now we're finding out that he was in a drag show in Brazil. But all of that information was at your fingertips. You decided you didn't want to know. Anytime somebody hires a cop that was fired for some level of malfeasance, and they get hired in a municipality 10 miles away, they didn't want to know. We have access to information. It is all around us. The only reason you do not know something is because you decided you didn't want to. Trust but verify. I don't know how many times you hear a woman out with men, he'll say something, she will Google him, get his information. Does he have any kids? How much money he makes? Is this his real last name? Ever been to jail? It is our desire to know things. It is how we stop from getting duped. But it's attributed to Mark Twain. I don't know that it's specific to him or not, but there's an old saying that fooling someone is easier than convincing them they were fooled. The paramount thing is that no one wanted to know. They wanted that house seat so bad, it's a swing distance. They didn't care what he said. Now, a certain amount of lies would have been okay. But this dude wins the grand prize for lying. Nothing about him is true. Not a thing. Not where he grew up, not where he worked, not where he went to school, not what team he played for, not his parents. They was a drag show. Like he's a total fabrication. And all people had to do to find out if that was true or not is hit Google. All they had to do to find out if the man they were voting for, the man they were entrusting with their district, the wishes of their district, all they had to do was hit a button. All they really had to do was want to know. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.